Assalamualaikum and very good day to all the students. So today we're going to learn about graphical user interface GUI, which is in the chapter 9. So in this topic, we're going to learn about graphical user interface component, whereby that we can have an input and output simultaneously in one graphical window. We do also can input the values in any order, and also we can use a button to display an output and change the value in the text fields in a window. So what is a Java GUI application? It refers to the mechanism to allow user to enter data in most economical and straightforward. So the example of GUI that we design is to allow a user to choose font types, style, and the size as shown in this figure. So in order to develop graphical user interface, we need to know basic GUI components. So the component in GUI actually is an object with a graphical representations. So when we say the object means that like a button, checkbox, radio button, text field, all of them are objects with a graphical representations, which is can be displayed on the screen and has the interactive way whereby that can interact with the user. So for example here, you can have a button. This button has a specified label which is that test button. So there is an event that can be generated. For example, when we want to click this button, so the event will be happen. Another object is checkboxes. So this checkbox has the label test checkbox. It has two states, either on or off. Whereas radio button is actually a group of checkboxes whereby that only one item in the group can be selected at one time. We also can have a choice of items, and then this is mostly that we can find in our GUI, whereby this is a label. We can add a text to this for description of the object. Another component or object in GUI is a text fields, whereby that inside the text field, for example, you can enter a value, any value that can be entered in this text field. It also can be used to display an output or can make it read only, or we can edit the value of the text fields. So this is an example application GUI whereby that consists of button, and you have a test. This is checkbox and group of radio buttons. Okay, and then you have a text field and choice, list down, and label. GUI components will be placed in content pane. Windows, label, text area, and button will be in the content pane. Okay, for example, you can see here that button, label, and text field all will be in the content pane. So all of these components will be inherit from the parents of J components. So inside the J component, all the objects, some such as label, panel, buttons, text field, all of them are actually the subclass for the J component. Another object that very important in GUI is a frame. So is frame actually is a window that is not contained inside another window. This means that it's a basis to contain other user interface component in GUI. Normally we create a frame and then we locate all the components or the controls on the top of the frame. For Swing GUI program, we normally use JFrame class to create a windows. Okay, so when we have a JFrame windows, okay, we can also can provide various method to our objects attributes. So we need to we also can specify the height and the width of the frame. We also can have a class JFrame. Actually, JFrame has a class by that GUI window instant created as an instant of frame. So inside the JFrame class, there are many constructors. So you see that there are two constructors here: JFrame with empty parameter, another one frame with one parameter, and then we can use a setter to set the size of the frame as well as to give the frame a title, and we provide them in the argument. Actually, we there are two ways to create a windows, and the first approach is that we declare an object of type JFrame. When we have a class of JFrame, we can create an object of the JFrame and use the that methods previous method to manipulate the window, such as something like we provide the size of the windows, we provide the title of the windows. Another approach is that we can create a class, a normal class, and then we extend it to define a class JFrame. So this is utilized using inheritance concept. If you can see here, this is a class. The class name is my frame, and inside the main method, we're going to see that there is a method or object of frame with a title of test frame. So we can manipulate the frame by calling is their methods such as like set size of the frames, and can set the frame to be visible if we provide true arguments, and we also can have the close operation default by provide the arguments exit on close. So inside the frames, we have an inner area of GUI. So to access the content pane, we need to declare a variable to refer to the type of container, and then use the get content pane inside the JFrame class. So here is a method in the class container, so whereby that we can add the object in the container and set the layout of the container. So take a look on label. So label also is a class, and the class is a JLabel class. So this JLabel class is used to create a labels, and it has their own data members such as like title, width, or height. So to create a label, we need to create an object of the label using a new operator, and we can use the methods of the JLabel class to modify or to update the labels. For example, here you have two constructor of labels, JLabel with one parameter string, and then we also have uh, overloaded constructor JLabel as well, whereby that there are two parameters, whereby we can provide an argument of string and alignments. Whereas another controls or object is a JText fields. This there is a class of JText field that create a text field object. Okay. For the button, also there is a class of button. We call it as JButton class. So you can use JButton class to create a button. So we do have also event driven programming to trigger the event for the object control just now. So we have a button to allow that button to trigger something, then we need to program the event driven. So event driven programming is a code that executes once the event is active. So there are how to handle an event. We need to have an action event listener. So what is the event listener? It's an object that receives a message for when the button is clicked. It's actually an object, okay, that accept the message from a button. So action listener also as a class, which is whereby that it handle the events, and this event action listener uh, will it will be inside the Java AWT event package. So when we want to call or to manipulate the method of uh, action listener, we also normally call or manipulate action perform methods. There is an action perform method based on the controls or based on the object that we can have modification of the coding inside the action perform method. So there is an inner class listener. A listener class is designed to create a listener object for the all the controls. So it is appropriate to define the listener class inside the frame class as an inner class. So the advantage is that for certain application, you can use inner class to make a program become simple, whereby that the reference of data and method will be defined in the outer class. So you do not need to pass the reference to the outer class to the constructor in the inner class. So this is the last topic for GUI. I'm going to show you the sample how to create a GUI using a NetBeans afterwards. Thank you.